It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
This one is from Thane. Thane. I like that name. Thane.
You know why you like it? It sounds like Bane.
It does sound like Bane. It's like a mix of Bane and Thanos.
You
It's like
need
these
to
just-
decide your voice. You know that Bane does. It's really cool. Well, no, keep going.
Do you feel in control? My wife and I just got married, and we plan to buy our first home. Man, we get a lot of housing questions. Plan to buy our first home in a few years of saving up. We're currently saving within our Roth IRA to do so. Is that a bad idea? So it seems like maybe Thane has heard that, there's a unique thing that happens with a Roth IRA as it relates to a first-time home purchase. Is that a good place to save for a down payment?
I answer the technical part of this and the fact that yes, you can technically use up to $10,000 from your Roth IRA if you haven't if you haven't bought a house in the last 2 years. There's an exception there. And remember, you also potentially have access to what your original principal in the Roth IRA, what contributions were. Anyway, but I feel bad for Thane in the fact that, because I remember when I bought my first house. I mean, this sounds so hokey, but I really did. I like piggy banks. I mean, I literally was going and dumping out. Now, I didn't have kids yet, so I don't think I was stealing from the kids. But I was trying to roll quarters and coins because every $100 mattered tremendously when I was just trying to squeeze into that first house. So it makes sense that Thane is trying to say, well, I could always just use the Roth IRA. And that is a very true statement that you have access. But just because you can, does that mean you should? I mean, because here's the thing I was thinking about, and I'll be curious to get your take on this, is I've shared in the past, and I don't know how new Thane is to our content, but I give you lots of grace and opportunity and flexibility with that first home purchase. You don't have to put down 20%. Don't let all these talking heads scare you into thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be sitting there piling up my cash till I can get to 20% and buy that first house. No. You go buy your first house with probably like 3% and take advantage of these low interest rates environments, because that's going to take the pressure off of you financially, so you can actually start taking advantage of the money multiplier and the fact that when you're young and have time on your side, compounding growth is so powerful. So that's the part when I bring it back to the compounding growth, I think about all those Roth IRA dollars or investments. You know, it's kind of like when you cook lobster and you hear the horror stories that they make sounds. You know, when you're cooking, I think about, well, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a thing?
I always think about my Roth IRA dollars. If you're not maximizing and use them, I just hear them like, no, don't. You know, because it's one of those things I just worry about. That is because that is money that is going to be so valuable because you're young. Compounding growth, it's going to be tax-free. All that compounding growth is going to be tax-free. So just because you can, I don't know if you should. So I would really squeeze, to make sure you take advantage of that 3%. And then it's one of those things where you might tell yourself, you can say, but Brian, I'm in a great career. My income's going up. I could say, I'm saving a lot of money. So it's not like that money won't get replenished somewhere else. If that's the case, just wait the extra year or two and actually have the money, so we're not getting into the Roth money. Maybe I'm too hard line on this, but I know as a person, once you get over a certain level of income and the government restricts you from being able to do Roth, you're like on the outside looking in going, man, Roth money is just cool because it grows tax-free. I think you're going to have some regrets for losing that.
Yeah, I would agree completely. Those Roth dollars, they're just sacred. They limit how much you can put into them. And then once you make over a certain amount, you can't put money into them. And so I just hate to see you. Those are like, we've never made this analogy before. I think this is a good analogy. Follow me if this is good. Like if you have an army of dollar bills, your Roth they're like the SEALs. They're like the Rangers. They're like the Special Forces. They're like the...
I don't want to offend anybody because
I'm trying to name all the
coming from a military family. You need to be very careful because you're going to leave out somebody and they're going to write you and be like, "Hey, what are we? Are we chump changing this whole defense and engagement?"
But they're the specialists. They are the ones, and I just hate to see you take them out of the battle when they're the ones that can really work hard for you. I like your idea. Like my personal experience when I wanted to buy my first house, I was still putting money in my Roth IRA. What I opted to do, now I'm not a nutritionist, I'm a financial advisor. I just cut corners elsewhere. I ate like ramen and I ate like Cheerios every night for dinner. I'm not telling you to do that. But before I would like grab those Roth dollars, I'd see what other areas of my life I could squeeze to possibly maybe potentially make up the difference, because I just think they're so valuable.
Hey, if we did anything on that, Thane is go at least, he's going to look at that Roth, and even if he uses it, he's going to probably minimize how much of that Roth money he uses, because we just gave him a lot of attention there.